For the past several months, global attention has pivoted almost entirely to the Middle East. With headlines dominated by escalating tensions there, it is easy to forget that the largest land war in Europe is still raging on. Behind the quiet news cycle is a devastating human cost. Current estimates suggest the combined casualties for Russia and Ukraine have reached nearly 1.2 million people, making this a generational war of attrition. Recently, there was a brief flash of hope for a diplomatic exit. Donald Trump attempted to broker a high-level peace agreement, but those talks rapidly collapsed. Neither side was willing to concede on absolute territorial red lines, specifically concerning 4 key Ukrainian regions now occupied by Russia. On the ground, the reality reflects that diplomatic dead end. The rapid territorial advances seen early in the war stalled. Instead, the battlefield has settled into a brutal grind, with neither side seizing a definitive advantage. We are looking at 2 highly motivated forces, backed by billions of dollars in international funding and deploying advanced military technology. Yet, despite these resources, the conflict has reached an equilibrium where every offensive move is met by an equally effective counter. The first major force maintaining this deadlock is international politics. Recently, Ukraine faced an existential threat, the possibility of the United States cutting off financial aid and stepping back from NATO. That generated a massive political shockwave. But instead of fracturing the Western alliance, the threat of U.S. withdrawal forced European nations to unify and take direct ownership of the conflict. European leaders quickly mobilized to fill the void. They passed a $60 billion aid package and began pushing forward an additional €90 billion loan, ensuring that Ukrainian military remained funded regardless of the political climate in Washington. The attempt to isolate Ukraine politically ended up creating a heavily funded, fiercely independent European firewall, balancing the scales on the diplomatic front. On the battlefield itself, the balance is maintained through technology. Russia has heavily escalated its offensive by dropping thousands of heavy glide bombs and launching massive drone swarms, relying on cheap, Iranian-designed models. To counter this volume of hardware, Ukraine deployed fleets of $2,000 Sting interceptors. These are small, nimble drones purpose-built to hunt down Russian assets in the air at a fraction of the cost of traditional anti-air missiles. These interceptors maintain their effectiveness by using O-net vision control, an AI system that relies on multiple independent, shifting signal channels. This makes it almost impossible for Russian electronic warfare units to jam the connection. This map illustrates how the technology works in practice. Because the signal is difficult to block, Ukrainian pilots can sit far outside the combat zone and accurately strike Russian targets up to 2,000 kilometers away. Then, a corporate wildcard disrupted the Russian side. Billionaire Elon Musk entirely blocked the Russian military from accessing Starlink satellite internet services. Without it, Russian frontline coordination was effectively blinded. You have Russia's sheer mechanical volume on one side, matched against Ukraine's cheap interceptors, unjammable AI, and private sector intervention on the other. With military tactics deadlocked, Ukraine went after the wallet. Using long-range drones, they began to systematically dismantle Russian oil refineries, inflicting billions in damage and crippling a significant portion of Russia's export capacity. This chart tracks the immediate fallout of that strategy. The volume of Russian oil tanked. However, right at that moment, an entirely separate conflict between the US and Iran escalated, and global oil prices suddenly doubled to $120 a barrel. Global market volatility effectively subsidized the Russian war machine. Even as refineries smoked, the global price hike provided Russia with a financial cushion that neutralized much of the economic pressure Ukraine intended to apply. When stacking all of these balanced forces together, you get the current reality on the ground. The Russian army is advancing at an agonizing rate of just 15 to 70 meters a day. With military hardware and tactics locked in a holding pattern, the outcome of the war now rests on internal political endurance. May 20, 2026 marks the end of President Zelensky's term. Wartime martial law prevents new elections, creating a dangerous political vacuum risking internal division. In an era of advanced asymmetric warfare, technology can only hold the line. Ultimately, this deadlock will not be broken on the battlefield. It will break the moment one side's political foundation